Terry, that jumped to my mind as well. It's a highly complex attack. There's a lot of operational moving pieces, and yet there was no real human intelligence that filtered up such that the Spanish authorities were able to stop it. How do you think we do a better job on that in the future, or how do you think they do a better job on the future in terms of infiltrating these cells?
So a couple questions you raised, how they do a better job, how we do a better job. Hopefully we'll all learn together. Every time something like this happens, we obviously learn quite a bit. But I think the structural problem here, and I'm not advocating returning to a strategy of the 60s or 70s, but keep in mind that back following the Weather Underground days and all of the aftermath of Watergate, here in America, we basically dismantled our ability to collect domestic intelligence. They assessed the balance and decided we're not going to do this anymore. All these years later, we're paying the price. We're paying the price in not being able to kind of catch these groups as they're starting to get together and formulate and plan. It's difficult for the police and local vicinities and everything to work with us because they can't collect domestic intelligence either. So we're really confined to the idea that we get called and we get a tip. And we've seen what happens with that. And, you know, we can do as much as we can. If no crime is committed, not much can be done. And that doesn't even get us to the whole idea of the lone wolf, the person who's kind of operating out there on their own. Right. So we have some real big challenges here with this.
Terry, I've got Michael Block on set. He wants to ask a question as well.
Hey, Terry. You know, what about softer measures here? It seems like these folks keep renting vans and running them out. It seems like it's almost too easy to rent a van without leaving a trace or trail. Is that something that maybe the legislation needs to take care of here in other countries? Also, it seems like even putting some barriers up to get rid of vehicle traffic. Is that something that could work well in an area like Las Ramblas, where it is a pedestrian kind of place?
Well, Michael, I think you've hit the nail on the head on the idea of legislation or maybe doing something to help with this whole idea of rentals. Maybe that would help. I think that one of the things that we can say for sure, though, and it gets to the heart of what we've talked about forever, the public can kind of be alert and kind of hopefully be instinctive about things. And no matter where you work, if you work in a rental agency, you work in a hotel, you're renting out a house, be alert to the kind of people that you're attracting, because this is always repetitive. Every time this happens, people have to rent vans, they have to have transportation, they have to have places to build bombs. Going all the way back, for example, to the attack on the USS Cole in Aden, a year earlier, a group of terrorists, the same people, had tried to commit the same crime against another U.S. destroyer. And it was through that was learned during a neighborhood investigation when the USS Cole was attacked, that we were able to put together all the pieces and figure out who had been responsible for that.
What's interesting, though,
so
Terry,
this is very important.
But what I think is interesting is that, you know, this is now a global story. I mean, it's not just Europe. It's not just the U.S. I mean, we're talking about terror attacks happening around the world. And it seems that many countries are trying to do whatever they can. I mean, look at what's happening in the U.K. Government officials, they're ordering a crackdown on car and van rental services, exactly what you were just talking with to Michael. You know, they want driver data to be shared. But here's the problem. Then you've got privacy concerns that are going to start coming up and popping up with that. I mean, where do we draw the line? What's the effective way to prevent this from happening?
One of the most difficult things in dealing with terrorism is that problem. Where do you draw the line between going overboard and affecting civil liberties? And ultimately, Cheryl, we're going to have to let people decide how far are they going to give us, how much rope are they going to give us to do more things than we're doing now. I mean, let's face it, a lot of work is being done now to both identify people after an attack has occurred, but also to prevent attacks, and a great deal of them have been prevented. But when you deal with terrorism, that is constantly the issue. How do you figure out where you slow down and where you're broaching someone's civil liberties? And It's always going to be with us. That's what makes this so complicated and so upsetting.
Real quick to Lee Carter.
Yeah, I just see that so many of these responses seem to be very reactive. There was a shoe bomber, we all have to take our shoes off when we go through airport security. Now it's like, let's look at rental cars more carefully. How do we look at this as more systemic rather than just reacting to one situation after another?
Well, we all know that we live in a world where this is not going to stop. It doesn't appear for a while. And so the answer to your question, and this is what I always say, and I think it's a great compromise between civil liberties and dealing with terrorism, is the public. We've got to continue getting the message out that we're all part of this. It's a lot easier to have a set of, or 300 million pairs of eyes in America, for example, looking at things and calling someone if they see something that bothers them. And it works. We prevented countless terrorist acts by the police or by the public picking up the phone and calling. We've solved cases and we've caught fugitives, like this person will probably be caught, because the public sees something and they get engaged. That is really the best way to do this with the tools we have right now.
Yeah, we hope so. Certainly, we're following developments there, and we're always trying to be safe here at home. Terry Turchie, great perspective from you this morning, and thank you for getting up so early.
Thanks, Cheryl.